Greetings and salutations, everybody. I hope you liked my recent video for the Gina Davis, Jeff Goldblum film Earth Girls Are Easy, because I have another one with the two of them from just a few years earlier, which is for The Fly from 1986. So, this is a David Cronenberg film, which is a remake of the 1958 film, which has a similar premise and features Vincent Price. Remakes get a lot of hate these days, but I feel like there are some cases where remakes are done right, and this one seems to be one of the perfect remakes. So, let's first look at the Cronenberg film here, which the synopsis is as follows. A brilliant but eccentric scientist begins to transform into a giant man-fly hybrid after one of his experiments goes horribly wrong. So, this is a similar premise to the original, but let's focus on this one first. This is one that I've always loved and has aged very well, both in my opinion and from what I frequently come across like on YouTube as a younger generation, or people who maybe just simply missed the film when it first came out, end up checking it out and they really like it. You know, it really holds up after, I guess it's about 38 years now. Where this one really excels, in my opinion, or at least for me, is how somehow it achieves this balance throughout. You know, one minute it seems like a science film about discovery and innovation, then it leans a little bit towards maybe some romance as our two leads are kind of getting closer. Then it gets very tragic and horrific, and really sad. You know, seeing this accident alter Brundle and him slowly like evolving into this fly-human hybrid from a genetic level of things, especially as he is kind of feeling his brain change as well and kind of be altered, becoming more fly-like in his brain, more insect-like in how his brain chemistry works. So not just his body, which is already horrifically changing, going from the initial increase in strength and speed and agility to barely being able to walk, and as his human side is rotting away, we have that mental side of it as well. And it really gets very sad and tragic, where by the time the ending comes, one's heart is just ripped out, seeing Brundle want to be destroyed, want his pain to be ended, so that way he can also keep Veronica safe. It really catches people off guard, it seems like, that this horror film ends up having a really sad side to it. And the effects also really help sell this. You know, as a film of the 80s, of course, this is practical effects taking the center stage, and they're pulled off great. They are really gross when they need to be, really minor and subtle when they need to be. They are excellently used both in the application on Goldblum himself to even the more mechanical setup of that full body transformation of the Fly toward the ending. It really holds up amazingly. Now, I remember when this one first came out, the excitement that there was going to be a remake, and people kind of jokingly wondering if it's going to have that little help me kind of quote thrown in. But I don't really recall people being angry hearing that a remake was coming, even though the original one was beloved by many. At least not in the way that remakes seem to be treated by a lot of people these days. You know, whether it be Ghostbusters or The Crow or Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Fright Night, Total Recall, RoboCop, and so on, there's this very vocal set of people who seem to get downright angry when a remake is announced. Even though none of these remakes include the destruction of all copies of the original, it's just a new take on it. But as far as the original goes, what about the original of this version of The Fly from 1958? Well, the synopsis here is similar. A scientist has a horrific accident when he tries to use his newly invented teleportation device. Well, I finally got around to seeing this one again for the first time in so long I had pretty much no memory of it. Likely one of those late afternoon on the weekend Dr. Paul Bearer presentations. I was a local horror host from in this area. So I was very young when I must have seen it the first time. And I went in with an open mind, hoping that I wouldn't be making constant comparisons to the Jeff Goldblum version or the Cronenberg version. And I didn't. You know, really, this felt like its own thing. They have a similar story, but in the original, we start with the outcome of the situation, where the wife of the scientist is taking blame for his death. And then eventually she's kind of recounting what had happened to lead up to that, even though people aren't really going to believe her tale. But the core is the same. Teleportation accident and a man and a fly getting mixed up. But in this iteration, the man has a fly head and hand, whereas the fly has like a tiny kind of like upper torso, arm, and head of a man on it. So the fly is still existing rather than the two of them being genetically brought together like in the Cronenberg version. Now, to fix himself in this one, the man needs to find this fly to try to be able to do something with this machine to separate them out again. And as repeated, like what we saw in the remake, he slowly is changing, getting worse and worse, mainly in this case for his brain. We do get to see what's happening to him physically. We get to see this fly head and hand, but this one really focuses more on what's happening to him psychologically and how his brain is starting to change, and he's feeling that his wife isn't going to be safe around him. And we have that same kind of tragic ending as well. Even though it's foreshadowed at the beginning, it's telling you what had ultimately happened. Seeing it get to that point is really sad. But in this one, I feel like it's even more sad because afterward, the fly is eventually found and killed. But that also helps kind of prove that the wife wasn't crazy, so at least there's some salvation in that, even though the man wasn't able to be saved. This one definitely leans, in my opinion, a lot more towards drama and tragedy than horror. We get this drama, science, tragedy, and then horror really coming in last, mainly because of the monster effects and the monstrous side effects of that fly mixing everything up. But it's really sad, and it's really excellent as well. So these two films really stand on their own, with the remake only sticking to the core. Teleportation accident, mixed with a fly, tragic ending. And outside of that, in the newer one, they had really changed things up to give it not just an updated feel that it takes place in the 80s, but also to lean a little bit more towards the horror aspect of it and a little bit less towards the drama. So whenever I hear panic or anger about a remake, I think of films like The Fly, and a handful of others. Those films which don't try too hard to reproduce the original, making it pointless because just watch the original, or swaying too far from that original to try to make it their own to the point where it doesn't even really feel related. But they just stick to that core, make it their own, give us another interpretation, not in competition to the original, but simply to be what this one is, in the case of The Fly, is just one that's also more than worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this latest entry here for The Fly from 1986, with a little touch on The Fly from 1958, as they're both worth checking out, and they both feel like their own thing. It's one of those situations where I feel like you can prove that there are right ways to do remakes. Now, at the time of this video, both the original Fly and from 1958 and the remake from 86 are available on paid rental and disc, though I do know that the Fly remake was recently available on Hulu, so maybe it'll pop in there again. Of course, I had it on disc because I've been rebuilding that collection of mine, or expanding upon my physical media collection. Now, tracking down The Fly Part 2 is proving to be a bit of an issue. This is the one with Eric Stoltz and Daphne Zuniga. Even though the Blu-ray, even the Blu-ray seems to be non-existent. So it's not on streaming. I can't find a Blu-ray except for an import that says it won't work on these devices. Maybe there's another way to find it, but I'll continue to shop around. Otherwise, I may just have to buy an old DVD of it and watch it that way. I remember liking it, so hopefully I still will. Also, if you notice this shirt, I got this one here at Spookala. It's my little Brundle shirt. I got this from a company named DOA. They have a really great selection, and I believe that this is maybe my third shirt from them that I've purchased over the years. And I have my eye on many more in their collection. So I will put up a link to their Instagram and to their shop in the description of this video. So that way, if you're interested, as I think you might be if you like horror, you can go ahead and stop by and check them out, see if you want to pick something up. Anyways, that's about all I have for this one. Also, at the time of this video, I did finally hit that 500 subscribers, so thanks to everybody who subscribed, especially for anybody who's been here for a long time. And if you're new, I hope you continue to be a subscriber and like everything that I've been putting out there. I usually put out 1 to 3 videos a week, so if you're not a subscriber, be sure to subscribe and hit that little bell icon to get notifications for when I put those up. So anyways, thanks for coming by, and I will see you in the next one.